Yo, what's going on, guys? My name is Dallas. I also go by German. And today we're going to be doing another deck profile. This time we're looking at the Myutant deck. I don't have this deck created in Master Duel yet, so this is why we're doing it over here in YGO Omega. We're going to go ahead and get things started. Now, one thing that is different between Master Duel and Omega is that when I scroll over it, it will change the card. So if I am like dragging stuff around, that's why. First, we have Myutant Arsenal. This card can't be special summoned except with the effect of a Myutant card. Your opponent can't target with trap effects, and once per turn, a hard once per turn, you can when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can banish one card from either your hand or field, then target one monster on the field and banish it. Also, if this gets destroyed, you can add one of your banished Myutant spell cards from your to your hand. Each of the level 8 Myutant monsters will follow the same trend with they can't be targeted. When something activates, you can do something, and when they're destroyed, you can add something that's banished back to your hand. Miss, pretty much all the same, except they can't be targeted with spell effects. And when your opponent activates a trap card or effect, you can banish one card from your hand or field and draw two cards. And I believe this one is monsters. Yeah. When it's destroyed, you can target you can add one of your banished Myutant monsters, and add it to your hand. Now, all of the Myutant cards don't mind being banished. They don't get any additional effects when they're banished. But they can always come back from being banished. So if they do banish, if your opponent banishes a lot of your cards, say with runics or anything like that, you can always get them back with the fusion card. So you always have plays you can go into and recycle your cards. Next, you have Myutant Beast. When your opponent activates, so this one actually doesn't look like it has. Okay, it has. You can't. Your opponent can't target this card with monster effects. This is the only sort of negation that this deck or the main deck has. And it's if your opponent activates a spell card, you can banish one card from your hand or field, and negate the activation. If you do, banish that card. And if this card is destroyed by your opponent's monster while it's in your possession, you can target one of your banished Myutant traps and add it to your hand. We'll go over the traps here in just a little bit, but they are pretty good. Then I'm running 2 dimension shifters. That way you can keep stuff off of the graveyard, and it's actually not that bad in this deck since all of your cards don't mind being banished. And then I'm running 2 Myutant GB88s. This effect is if you have the archetypal field spell, which is Myutant Evolution Lab, during your opponent's main phase. Quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is special summoned during your opponent's turn, you can tribute this card and banish one card from your hand or face up on the field, and special summon one of your level 8 Myutant monsters that is either in your graveyard or banished. You can only use this effect once per turn. It is a hard once per turn, and it's just a good way to recycle. However, the your banished cards will kind of fluctuate depending on when you actually get your fusion spell and when you can actually use it. If you can use it, you're shuffling everything back into your deck. So this is not the best. So I'm only running it 2. And it seems like you have to have, at least in YG Omega, probably works better in Master Duel. Seems you have to have the build spell on build to actually activate its secondary effect for some reason. Next, you have Myutant ST46. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add one Myutant spell or trap from your deck to your hand. You contribute this card, then banish one card from your hand or face up on the field, and special summon one monster from your deck or hand, your hand or deck, based on what was banished. If you banish monsters, you get the Myutant Beast. If you banish traps, you get Myutant Arsenal. And if you banish spell cards, you get a Myutant Mist. So, depending on what you have in your hand, you can choose what you want to special summon. Next, we have just the regular hand traps, Ash Blossom and Max C. I'm running these both at 1. You can replace some other stuff and run it at 2 if you want to replace Trade-In or any of the actual Myutant spell cards. Those aren't actually all that useful. I only have them here because I like to keep things at least a little bit pure, so that I am not relying on outside sources for support. And then the last main deck monster is Myutant MO5. When this card is normal or special summon, you can add one Myutant monster from your deck to your hand. Except for itself, you contribute this monster, special summon, or you contribute this monster and then banish one card from your hand, and it follows the same trend with Myutant. This one, ST46, depending on what you banish, you can special summon the corresponding level 8 Myutant monster. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and look at the fusion card. It's called Myutant Fusion, and you can fusion summon one Myutant Fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion monsters listed on it from your hand or field. Okay, so this one does this one actually is the one that banishes, but there's another fusion card in here that returns the banished cards back into your deck, and it's a trap card, so we'll go over that in just a second. If your opponent activates a card effect on your turn when you use this, you can also use a monster from each your graveyard and deck. So it's not that bad. However, this means it can be Ash Blossom, and if it does get Ash Blossom, you are out for that turn for special summoning, because you can only activate one of these once per turn. So you have to be careful about that. Unfortunately, there's not much you can do. And if they do Ash Blossom, I believe they can do it even if they don't activate an effect, because it does say that you can use the deck even if you're not using it, which is kind of annoying. I'm running 3 trade-ins because you have a lot of late monsters. You can get them in the graveyard really easily, which doesn't really matter, and you can draw 2 cards if you brick, which is pretty. You do brick kind of a bit in this, with all the high level monsters and stuff. But if you get any of your other monsters, you can go into a couple of things with it. You don't want Myutant GB88 in your hand alone, because you can't get its effect if you don't have the Evolution Lab on the field. So you really just want to get Myutant ST46 and Myutant MO5. And then I'm running 2 Emergency Teleport. This is only at 2, so unfortunately I can't run more. But basically all this is you special summon a level 3 or lower psychic monster from your hand or deck, but banish it during the end phase. Again, doesn't matter about banishing. And all of the Myutants are all the Myutant lower levels are psychic types, which you can actually only go into Myutant ST46 or 05. I'm running 3 Myutant Evolution Lab. I know some people only run this in 1 or 2. This doesn't really happen all that often. However, this is kind of hard to draw if you don't have ST46. So that's why I'm running it at 3. And I like recurrence for this, especially since it allows you to special summon one of your level 4 or lower Myutant monsters from your hand or that's banished. And Myutant monsters that you control gain 100 attack for each of your banished Myutant monsters with different names. And once per turn, during your main phase, you can place 1 Myutant monster from your hand on the bottom of the deck, and if you do, draw 1 card. So it's a draw engine, makes it so that you don't get that same card that you just now put in the back of your bottom of your deck. And It's just a pretty much basic support field spell all around. Doesn't let you search, unfortunately. However, if you do have something that's banished, you can just special summon it back, get its special summon ability or effect, and then go from there. Next, I'm running 2 Myutant Blast. You can equip this to only a level 8 or higher Myutant monster you control. At the start of a damage step, if the equipped monster attacks an opponent's monster, you can banish that card. So it's just an easy way to get around something that's very annoying. If you attack something that's a lot stronger than you, you can just banish it and get it out of the way. Unfortunately, it looks like, yeah, unfortunately it's only if it attacks. So if you have this out and your opponent special summons a really strong monster, you can't really do much about that. Because they'll be able to crash into you and not have to deal with anything. Next you can banish this card, send the monster that this card was equipped to the graveyard. If you do a special summon 1 level 8 monster, Myutant monster with a different original attribute from the one you sent. I haven't used that yet, but sometimes that can be good depending on what you have out. And then this is the Trap Fusion. During the main phase, you can fusion summon 1 Myutant fusion monster from your extra deck by shuffling the fusion materials listed into the deck from among cards on the field in your graveyard and or face up banished cards. It's a really easy way to get all the stuff back into your deck. And if you do special summon the Myutant Synthesis, you get a free pop, so it's not too bad. Going into the next one, you have Myutant Clash. When this card is activated, you can target 1 effect monster your opponent controls. Banish 1 Myutant monster from your graveyard. If you do, negate its effects until the end of this turn. And that's even if it leaves the field. When your level 8 or higher Myutant monster destroys the opponent's monster by battle, you can draw 1 card. So it's pretty much just an easy draw engine as well, because you will be destroying a lot of monsters by battle if you actually get to the battle phase with your Myutant monsters, which is hard to do, kind of, but you do have just Omni Negation with the boss monster. Alright, and next you have Myutant Expansion. When you activate this card, you can take 1 level 4 or lower Myutant monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or special summon it. If a level 8 or higher Myutant monster you control will be destroyed by card effects, you can banish this card you control instead. Now you have to control this card to use that secondary effect. However, the first effect is pretty good. You can use it for either your Myutant MO5, ST46. You can use it for GB88. However, for some reason I have had issues with it where it wouldn't activate its effect even though it was special summoned on the opponent's turn. It could be a bug with this game, I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, I just didn't get the effect, so I couldn't special summon something from the graveyard or banish. That is it for the main deck. We're going to go into the extra deck. And if you see it, it's a little bit of, it looks like it's pretty pricey, but that's okay. After the fusion monsters and even some of the fusion monsters, you don't have to run 2 or 3 of these. They're pretty much interchangeable. It's just what you have out, or what you have available access to at the time. I'm running 2 Myutant Ultimus, and it can only be special summon. It can only be fusion summoned by fusion summoning level 3 level 8 or higher Myutant monsters. When a card or effect is activated, you can banish 1 Myutant card from your hand, graveyard, or field of the same type. You have to be monster, spell, or trap. Negate the activation. If you do, banish that card. If this fusion summon monster is destroyed by your opponent's card effect or card, you can add up to 3 of your banished Myutant cards, 1 for each of monster, spell, or trap. Synthesis is just like you get to pop a card when it's fusion summoned, and when your opponent activates a card or effect. You can activate this effect for the rest of this turn. This card is unaffected by effects of an opponent's cards of the same type, monster, spell, or trap. Depending on what they summon or depending on what they activate, you can become unaffected by that type of card. As that card, if this fusion summon monster you control is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can add one of your banished Myutant cards to your hand. So you can, if this gets destroyed, you can just add something back. Be it the fusion spell or the fusion the fusion trap, Myutant's Cry. If it's Myutant's Cry, you're actually pretty good. That way you can send this back to the extra deck and just special summon it again and get another target. It's a targeted pop, so you can't just special summon it and just destroy something right away. Okay. Now for the next one, I'm just gonna go over the more relevant extra deck cards. Some of these aren't all that useful, but they can still be used. All of these level 8s are only in here because you can go into level 8s pretty easily. So Zombie Master, or sorry, the Zombie Vampire is pretty good, where you can detach one material, have both players send the top 4 cards of their deck to the graveyard, and then you can special summon a monster that was among them. You'll most likely only be using this as leak material if you do this, so it's not all that useful. However, it's if you do, if you're going up against an opponent that doesn't like, graveyard effects, then this isn't all that bad. Or if you do and the monster has to be in the graveyard to actually activate that effect, you can make sure it's not there. And Hope Harbinger Dragon Titanic Galaxy, that is the other one that's really good. It's just a spell negate, and if your opponent tries to attack something else, you can attach one material from this and make it attack this card. So it's just an attack redirect as well. All these other ones are interchangeable. One thing I would recommend running is Topologic Zeraboros, just so that you can banish cards really easily. It gets attack based on how many cards is banished, so it's really synergistic. Has a lot of synergy with this archetype. I was gonna say synergistic. I'm not sure if that's a word. And if it's something special summon to its zone that it points to, you can banish all cards in the field, and then once it comes back, it's bigger, and you would most likely banish Myutant cards, so that's going to make all of your other cards really easy to get out as well. And then I am running Cross Sheep. When a fusion monster is special summoned to a zone this points to, you can special summon one level 4 or lower monster from your graveyard, which is probably going to be Myutant ST46 or Myutant MO5. It could also be one of the hand traps, which then you can go into one of the other links, probably either going to be IP Masquerena, so you can tribute both of these off for Avermax on your opponent's turn, or just going to Access Code Talker if you have 4 monsters on the field, or 3 with Cross Sheep. But Topological Zeraboros probably has the most synergy with this whole deck, apart from their archetype extra deck monsters. Anyway, that is the deck. I'm gonna go ahead and try to get some duels in with this. I am only gonna be dueling CPUs, just because there's not a lot of people on here, and I feel like sitting through a lot of waiting time, and they have competent decks anyways here. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to get some of those, so I'll be right back.